please rise and join us in the pledge? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Moines County Board of Supervisors, October 6, 2020. Are there any changes to the tentative agenda?
I have none.
We have an agenda. Meet with department heads, elected officials. Terry Johnson, Des Moines County Auditor.
Good morning. We mailed out our 8,046 ballots yesterday. Carl and I delivered them down to the post office. And yesterday we had 128 at the counter to vote on the first day that in-person voting was available. There was a few of those that had ballots, and they go, well, we never received them, and we said that's because we just mailed them today, and we preferred that they use those ballots, so wait till they get, those ballots are delivered, because I ordered 24,000 ballots. We have over 28,000 registered voters, that's active and inactive. I ordered 24,000 ballots, and we've already used up a third of those, so, and that was for absentee, so we prefer that they use the ballots that are being mailed to them, so. And I think that's it. I know I've had some other questions brought up. Oh, one of the questions was, when are we gonna count those ballots? We will start counting those on Monday, November the 2nd. We will start, the absentee board will start opening those and start counting those. They will count them on Monday and Tuesday. The Secretary of State got an executive or emergency directive that we could start doing that on Saturdays, but I think that is more for the larger counties that have an enormous amount, because I think I heard Scott County sent out 37,000 ballots yesterday. So that's another reason. Give it a week to get your ballot, because there's a lot of ballots that were sent out yesterday. And but anyway, that's when we will start counting. A majority of those absentees will be downloaded on the results that night. It's usually our absentees are usually our first results to go into the total. Hopefully that stays the same this year, and so far we should be just fine. And anything that gets counted after that will be absentee ballots that were postmarked the day before the election but doesn't arrive, because we have until the Monday before we do the canvass at noon to add in any ballots that might have been postmarked before the election but were received during that week after the election. So those are the few ballots that will still be counted in.
But the votes should start counting, you run those through a machine?
For what, absentees?
Yeah.
Well, with all of the grants that we got an extra little mini that's a little scanner. It moves much faster than the regular machines that we have at the precincts, because our absentee board has stood there before and done all of those multiple ones. But the little scanner, we used that at the primary. We had over 6,000, and it took us about 6 hours, and that included a lunch and breaks in between there, but it took us about 6 hours to run the 6,000 ballots. So it scans them through pretty well, pretty good. So, but we got another one, so we have 2 of them that we will be using, so. So we have all the faith in the world in our equipment, so.
Yeah.
You got any questions?
Update on your opening for Saturday.
Oh, yeah, the 2 Saturdays before the election, we are open. The first Saturday, October the 24th, is the last day that you can pre-register for the election. And you can also absentee vote then. That we are open from 8 to 5 that Saturday. And then the Saturday following that will be open just for absentee voting. And if anybody doesn't get registered by 5 p.m. on October the 24th, then they either have to vote at the polls, or they can come down here and register and vote. You can't come down here and just register and expect to go to the polls. You missed that deadline. So you can either register and vote down here, absentee, or at the polls on election day. And that's called an EDR, an election day registration. So, and that second Saturday will be open 9 to 5. So that's October the 31st.
Thank you.
And we're open till 6 o'clock every night.
Thanks, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Angie Vaughn, Safety.
Good morning. Just keeping busy. We're gonna be doing training for drug awareness and reasonable suspicion training. So department heads that hasn't had that in the last 2 years needs to sit in on those trainings. Also, we're getting ready to do some CPR BLS training. So I'll be doing it with conservation and with the public health department, getting them recertified. So anyone that needs that, give me a call and we can work it out, figure out where they can go to get that training done.
What day you gonna have different days to do that?
Yes, yes. And you want me to send you the days?
That'd be nice, 'cause I have to get recertified.
Okay, I can do that. And we're doing the BLS instead of the Heart Savers. BLS has to be done for the health professionals. But they increased the price of their cards for Heart Saver to $28 a card. But if you do BLS, which is a little more in-depth training, they only charge $8 a card. So we're just gonna start training BLS for everyone, make sure they're really well trained.
Thanks, Angie.
You're welcome.
Colin Gerst, IT.
Just keeping busy like always. I don't have really anything new to report.
I think I saw Rodney Buisner
Hi.
in the doorway. Maybe not?
He went
Okay,
on.
He's on the WebEx now, so
Okay,
he probably will.
okay, okay. Brian Carter, Secondary Roads.
Good morning. Quick update, Stars K, they poured the last of the concrete Monday. So hopefully open that up. Friday, probably be optimistic, more likely probably be early next week to get the shoulders built and stuff like that. But, so that project is close to wrapping up. Guys are out ditching, we're doing our last stretch of pinching today. Just to give you a quick update, we attempted to take bids for our shop project. And what we've come to learn is that everybody's too busy for the time frame that we had. So we will rebid with a longer time frame. We did not get any bids. And the input we received back was that the contractors are swamped. So we're gonna flex it and have to push the deadline out to probably next fall to have an opportunity to get in some bidders. So we'll put that back out there sometime in November.
Good for contractors.
Yep. So, other than that, plenty of stuff going on in the office already, trying to get stuff ready for bidding this winter for next year's construction.
Thank you. Lisa Schaefer, Des Moines County Attorney.
I'm staying busy. We are getting ready to roll over to our new data management system at the end of the month, so we've been pretty occupied with getting all of the last minute things done for that. I want to thank Colin and his crew for working with us on getting our quotes for the courtroom AV equipment. It sounds like we might not be able to get actually anything done until the end of the year. Apparently electronics are hard to come by right now, so. We also found that there may be a grant opportunity to help offset some of those costs. And then also want to thank Rodney and his guys for moving a bunch of furniture around, so we were able to take an empty office and make it into a secondary conference room, which we were sorely lacking at our Valley Street office. So thank his guys for helping out and getting all that furniture rearranged for us. But other than that, just staying busy getting with jury trials.
Thanks, Lisa. Ken Hyman, Community Services.
Good morning. Staying busy. I agree with Brian. I've been trying to get somebody to re-roof my house. Can't find anybody that'll do it this year, so it's hard to find a contractor that's not busy. So other than that, just staying busy and working on the website and just feeding information to a web developer so we can have a new SEAL website. And working on all those applications for the grants, the CARES Act grants, for mental health centers and for schools, so that's about it.
Ken, I see that, I don't know if this bothers the Seal region, but I see where the Mercy Hospital in Iowa City closed down their mental health ward due to the coronavirus 19. Will that have any impact on our region?
Well, you know, we do send people, we have 8 beds in our hospital that we use, and then we send people all over the state when those 8 beds are full for mental health inpatient. So, yeah, any loss of beds in the state just makes it harder to find a open place to
I
send
just
people
can't
to.
see them closing places like that down, you know.
Yeah,
We lost Mount Pleasant and it's terrible.
yes, it is, yeah.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Ken. Sergeant Glenn Denning, Des Moines County Sheriff's Office.
Things are going well at the sheriff's office. Been very busy. The numbers at the jail, I think, were 65 this morning, and that's kind of reflects because of our busyness. There's 6 of those were in intake, so they should be either getting released or not, and our number should go below 50. We're gonna send a couple up to Oakdale, so we should go under 60 here in the near future. We closed our opening or our open position. We're taking applicants for, we got 12 applications. Not a ton of applicants, but some really high quality ones. So we're pretty excited about that. We'll have that testing on the 17th to move forward with that. Other than that, things are going well.
Good news, thank you.
Very good news.
Krista Pogamiller, Local Health.
Good morning. We continue to stay busy. We've seen a little bit of an uptick in our COVID numbers. We currently we've had a total of 898 positive cases, with 642 of those recovered. We do have a rolling 14-day percentage at this point of 9.3, which has gone up, so we continue to do that contact tracing. I want to remind everyone that October 14th, a week from tomorrow, is our drive-through flu clinic at St. Mary's Church, and that's going to be from 10 to 3. And our office will be closed for walk-in traffic that day. We will still be available by telephone, but we won't have the doors open that day, so.
Thanks, Krista. We got anybody online?
Yes. First one I have on here is Rodney Bleasner, Des Moines County Maintenance.
Rodney Bleasner, Maintenance.
His mic isn't unmuting for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, sorry about that. Just stayed really busy. One of the projects we had was the chiller unit, replacing the chiller unit this year. They were gonna start this week, but with temperatures kind of creeping back up this week, we pushed it off till next week. So you will see some work on that next week. Also, be having a fire alarm. Usually we have one in October. With COVID and everything going on, I'm not sure we're gonna have a full-scale one. Talk a little bit with Gene. I haven't talked with Angie yet, but so be on the lookout for a courthouse fire drill. We probably will not do a full-scale event, but just kind of a local one here this year. Other than that, just keeping really busy. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney.
Chris Lee, Des Moines County Conservation.
Chris Lee, Conservation.
Good morning. Not a lot to update you on today, just kind of routine stuff. We did manage to get rid of all of our pumpkins, so thank you to everybody that came and took all the pumpkins. And then our internet at Stars Cave is still failing. We had CenturyLink out. They're there about 15 minutes that they fixed it. I've had the IT department, thanks to those guys, they've been monitoring it for us because we're not there all the time because we simply can't work there when we don't have a connection. And it goes out pretty much every day for anywhere between a little while and all day. And so we're still not sure what to do about that. We did look into satellite internet, and due to where that place sits, kind of down in the valley like that, and all the trees around there, without doing some serious clearing of the trees in front of the building and off to the side, we couldn't get a good line of sight to the satellite, and we're not really certain that would provide our data needs anyway, and so. So we're still not sure. We're going to keep working on that, try to figure that out. For now, the Nature Center staff is, for the most part, working out of the main office out here in West Burlington, and we'll continue to do so until we can solve this connectivity issue over there. And so, for the most part, the Nature Center is closed. If somebody wants in there, they can give us a call and they can set up an appointment to come out there. And then other than that, just, we're kind of transitioning into fall mode. Although Big Hollow Campground remains full. We don't have a reservable site for the rest of October, which is, we'll start shutting water off, in our various parks at the end of this month. And then depending on what the weather does, we may leave Big Hollow open. If it doesn't look like we're gonna get any hard, freezing in the ground, we'll leave Big Hollow open, into November. We've actually had calls of people wanting to come and camp during Thanksgiving week. We told them, there's no snow on the ground. You're welcome to, but the water's likely to be off. So, that's kind of our philosophy on that. You're welcome to come use the campground. We won't do any snow removal on the campsites. So if we get buried in snow, that'll pretty much shut it down. But other than that, water off the shower house will be off. But, you're welcome to come stay as long into the fall as you want to, I suppose. So, other than that, I think that's about it for this week.
Thanks, Chris.
Jared Lassiter, land use.
Jared Lassiter, land use.
Good morning. I don't have anything in particular to mention. We have a couple of minor subdivisions out for review right now. Zach probably mentioned this before. We have our updated subdivision and zoning ordinances being reviewed by the zoning commission right now. Right now, I'm actually looking to set up a meeting, hopefully later this month, so we can have a more detailed discussion on that after they've had a chance to review some of those proposed changes. Also, I've sent it out to various other county departments and the cities as well, just to get some feedback on that. So it's well, the review process is well underway. We have made a few slight adjustments based on some feedback we've received from county staff. I think it's moving along nicely. Apart from that, we've had a fair amount of interest in new inquiries lately. Even one where it was something that I'm amazed at how often we get this, where there's a situation where someone had spoken with Jeff about this, Jeff Hannon, like 4 or 5 years ago, and we knew nothing about it because it was never written down anywhere. But there's this stuff tends to move slowly. People take time to process things and what they need to do, and so it just amazes me that there's still some out there that had already been discussed previously, but are still moving forward. But nothing earth-shattering, just pretty typical inquiries, I would say. So I have nothing else.
Thanks, Jared.
Janelle Nellie Longquist, Des Moines County Treasurer.
Janelle Nellie Longquist, Des Moines County Treasurer.
Janelle, you'll need to mute yourself on your side.
Good morning. I really have nothing new to report. We just continue to be busy.
Thanks, Janelle.
Janelle, you get gonna be a lot of late fees on taxes this year?
There were a few that trickled in after September 30th, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Not a lot, but a few.
Well, that's good. Thank you.
That's all I have.
You miss anybody? I don't think so. And Krista addressed COVID-19. I believe we have another emergency operations center meeting this afternoon. So, correspondence.
I have none.
I had one from Jared on airport. We're gonna do some work at it, and I think I forwarded that to you guys. I just don't know if you got it or not. It'll have a chart in it and their flight patterns. They're gonna meet again. So, it's something you need to pay attention to.
Okay, well, you might want to resend that.
Okay.
I received a letter from, I'm not gonna use any names, with concerns that people are using the county GIS website to get contact information on people with political signs in their yard and then sending anonymous letters to those residents. I really hope this isn't happening. I'm aware that the First Amendment probably doesn't enjoy the widespread support that it once held, but this is the United States of America. the people with whom one may disagree have the same constitutional right to express their political opinions as everyone else. So if you're aware of anybody that does this, please discourage this. I really hope this isn't happening.
We've had more contact than normal this year, even in past presidentials on wanting us to get involved because of a sign here, sign there that they don't agree with, and they think it's in the wrong spot and stuff, so.
Oh, in the right of way?
Yeah, or, yeah,
Yeah.
you never know, and so it's been an interesting stretch, so.
Thank you.
Well, I thought he was gonna have to say I was gonna have to take all the signs down. We don't wanna do that.
Keep them out of the right of way. Discussion and vote will proceed to, and we have accounts payable in the amount of $723,000, $882.34. $723,882.34.
Move to approve.
Second.
Terry?
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Bob Beck?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes. We have payroll claims reimbursements in the amount of $205.22 and non-cash taxable reimbursements in the amount of $42 even.
Move to approve.
Second?
Terry?
Bob Beck?
Yes.
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes. DESCOM 2080 agreement. I'm gonna assume that's John, Mayor?
Yes,
That's the reason you're here?
yes, I was sent in for desktop.
Okay.
Shannon could not make it, she's getting some testing done that has to be caught up.
And that's fine. I guess I'm not sure what we're supposed to do with this.
I don't know, it's on your agenda.
It is on the agenda, and Shannon sent it to the auditor's office Friday, unattached to 2080 agreement, and it's a 2080 agreement from
2019.
2019, 2015. It's an old.
That I don't know, I'll be honest with you.
Anyway, so I was gonna, I look at it, it's still got the, still got cost sharing, it's got the,
So it's the old agreement that was
it's an
sent?
old agreement, it's,
Yeah, it was the one that was effective July the 1st, 2019, and continuing for 5 years, terminating on June the 30th, 2024.
24. So I'm assuming you don't want us to ratify this, I don't think it means we've already. Anyway, I guess when we had the meeting last week, I thought
I thought we were
supposed to be an emergency,
2 weeks.
emergency management commission was what everybody had agreed on, and then asked the emergency management commission if they were interested in being the control board. Is that what you understood?
That's what I understood too, so I don't know why.
Jessica, you were there, is that what you understood?
That's what I understood too. Lisa was.
Okay. If you talk to Shannon, whether this was attached by mistake or there's some other reason, I don't know what
I'll
to do
have
with
to
this.
ask her, I do not
Okay,
know.
but I do not know what to do with
Okay.
this.
I move we table this.
What table or just
Sure,
started?
well, what do you think of me, so what do we do with it? And I know you aren't.
Again, this particular agreement, if that's was provided and was placed on the agenda, it's already been approved, long ago.
Yeah,
I would, if you wanna table it and have the opportunity to have it brought back on the agenda in a couple of 3 weeks after all the other meetings have taken place,
what,
that would, but otherwise, there's really nothing to address in an agreement that's already been
It's
approved.
gonna be that piece of paper anyway.
No,
So,
No, it's not, so yeah.
just, you moved to table it?
Yes.
Do I second it?
I'm not sure that's the right answer for that piece of paper, but
Okay, and I don't either, I don't wanna spend half the meeting on it.
no.
Because I don't think this is something, like Lisa says, it's been
We're not ready for it.
Just table it, put it on, we'll come up with it again.
Yeah,
If,
when we get something
we can do whatever we want with it
organized
then.
through all of the other
Yeah.
meetings,
Yeah.
when there actually is a new agreement to approve.
And if you check, or maybe send me an email, if there was a
will-
reason this
I will
came,
do
I
that.
would be curious, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah, that's not why I thought I was coming today, so I'll find out. And,
Okay.
I'll give you an email later today.
Okay, I
So
appreciate
we
it.
just let it die for lack of action.
Well, if the table isn't seconded, I'll second it. Just table the table for it. I don't want to see that quote in the paper. At least without the expletive. Terry?
Okay. Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes.
Bob Beck?
Yes.
We have a Class C liquor license for the Barn on the Ridge, the Bach Wedding. Date on here.
Should be 10/8.
10/8, I do see it, okay, for October 8th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Terry?
Bob Beck?
Yes.
Jim Carrey?
Yes.
Tom Broker?
Yes. We have the rural resident fall cleanup. Terry probably has some information on
And
that.
I think I've got an attachment there on what our credits are that we have available. It's, I think, a little over 5,000.
Okay. And those run the calendar year, so those expire December 31st.
Right.
Okay. So it would be Monday, October 14th through Saturday, December 7th.
That's what you had in 2019.
That's what we had in
Yeah.
2019.
So,
We need a bigger calendar.
So it'd be,
so here's today. If you wanna go,
Yeah, that's
Here's
just
the
start.
nine. Or
This
you wanna
is
start
right
with-
up your alley, secondary roads. What do you, start it on a Saturday, work the best?
Longer the better, give people the more time as possible, or as much time as possible to clean the ditches up and, or whatever they want, the less stuff ends up in the ditch, so.
Okay, you wanna do it through, start Saturday and then run it through, let's run it to the middle of December.
Yeah.
and I probably need to check, because I think the last time they were only open, what, 2 Saturdays? And I know
Yeah, I do
they're
remember
still
discussing that.
doing the, by appointment only to take appliances in. I didn't ask about the Saturdays, but when you were talking about that, that just reminded me, so,
This only covers certain things anyway, I mean, whatever that list is.
yeah.
I'm not sure appliances is on there.
Well, that's for the recycling center.
I'd be all for that.
We think October 9th.
Get the old TVs out of the ditch.
Well,
Well,
TVs, dryers.
Well, the
you know,
TVs, residents
fridges.
still have to pay for those and computers, because they're electronics and they still have to pay a fee.
If they
Not-
ever-
not from the
That's,
ditch.
yeah, well, yeah, that's.
If they really wanna improve this system, they figure out a way to do this and take those TVs, because that's one of the biggest problems we have, is people dumping those old TVs. Because nobody wants, I guess I shouldn't say nobody, people don't wanna pay the money apparently, and they're really easy to roll out of the back of a truck, so.
right along there.
It's not
Well, this
expensive.
creates a rare opportunity, and I'm gonna step aside from the agenda just a second, while we've got the
Either
mayor of
between $7
Burlington
and
here.
$15.
John, there's a,
It's up to $15.
ask, or Brian, if you, what do you call, there's a
For
mailbox
some people, it can't.
that's inside city limits. Sorry. That's reinforced steel that hangs out over the road. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
You might wanna look at that.
All right, then give me the address.
Anyway, we've driven by it a couple of times. It looks like some sort of a safety hazard, somebody on a motorcycle or whatever. See, if you want to contact Brian, I think that,
Okay,
I was
sounds
always
good.
gonna mean to
I can
mention that
send
to
you
you.
an address, but I don't know it off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
all right, sounds good.
Okay, so,
On this cleanup,
yeah.
you said the TVs now, remember Colin, we had that, out at the old McDonald's supply there when they took all that stuff? You think we could work something like that in again?
Yeah, we've actually been looking into that, because we got a lot of equipment upstairs that we kinda need to get rid of. But
'Cause I think
I think there was still a cost to get rid of a lot of that, stuff. I don't remember exactly what the criteria was, but a lot of folks brought, some old, like TVs and some other
Yeah.
stuff, and I.
It
it was
went
like-
really well, as I recall.
Yeah, it was like $10 or $15 or whatever per item, I think, to dispose of it. But,
That's what it cost the county.
yeah, the company that we used before doesn't do it any longer, so we've been kind of fishing around trying to find one that would work for us.
Well, landfill was wondering about it when Gina did that. I wondered why you were doing that instead of using them. And I think because you were more secure.
Well, they're not the
is more
easiest to
secure.
get into.
What's that?
They're not the easiest to get into out there. I
No.
mean,
Well-
out the landfill.
Are you saying they're not user friendly out there?
Well, I believe it's been a while since I did it, but I think there's a small window, if I'm right, that they don't take it all the time, some of that stuff. I guess but either way, that is, TVs are pretty popular to show up in ditches.
Well, your ditches are open 24/7.
Yeah.
Tires work well.
Even when it's dark, tires are more popular to throw over bridges.
Must be more fun watching splash.
And actually, I want to give, of course, law enforcement has walked away and closed the door, I was gonna get that credit. But,
They were probably texting to work for your arrest.
Yes, we'll all get a sight here, but, we did have, a large illegal dumping down on like Skunk River, somewhere down south. I want to say 20 or 30 bags from what I understand, and he had all sorts of stuff, and they went through it, found some contact, went back, and as is common, you can't link it to one person, but they did manage to get that cleaned up without county tax dollars going into it. Obviously, other than their time to do some investigating, we try to help them out when we can, so credit to them. Because that does happen every so often, where all of a sudden 30 bags of trash show up. It's different from this subject, but I wanted to mention that, because we were all for it. It's pretty frustrating. The residents get mad about it. Nobody likes that, when trash shows up in their ditches.
Well, do you want to start it on October the 12th? Because by the time I get it to the weeklies, they won't have it in the weeklies.
Okay.
That would be good.
And so, but if we start the 12th, I mean, hopefully I can get it to them by then, but.
How late do we want to run it in December?
December 20th.
December 20th? That works for
The
me.
20th is on a Sunday, I don't think so.
Oh, wait, I was looking on December 19th. December.
Told you you need a bigger calendar.
Sorry about that. The 18th,
You'll have to talk to GIS about that.
December the 18th.
That's a good day.
18th or
Great
19th?
people are
Like,
born.
19th,
find out
yeah.
what Saturdays are open.
That'd be fine, that's in the middle of December.
So we're gonna try for October the 12th through December the 19th.
That's a long stretch, that's good stuff. The longer the better, and
Yeah.
As long as, and well, if we run out of credits before then I'll close down sooner, but.
yep. I don't think we've ever ran out of credits.
I don't think we ever have, because I was thinking when we did the one that ran through summer, we had.
Will it run to the end of the year?
I think you're close
Yeah,
enough
we're
right
close
there with
enough.
the holidays and getting into winter
They
time
can clean,
and
they can
stuff
clean
like
out
that.
all the
Maybe-
kids, they can clean out all the kids' toys right before they get new ones for Christmas.
Maybe the landfill will stay open Christmas Eve for us.
We'll try. I'll shot.
I find that happening with these new grandkids.
We've got $5,000, I think she said.
Oh, 5,000.
Isn't that what you said about $5,000?
Yeah, I think my email's in there, it's over 5,000,
That
so.
should go quite a ways.
56, 59, 38.
Oh, yeah.
5,600.
As long as Brian doesn't bring in more TVs, because that keeps knocking down our credits, so.
We only bring in what people illegally dump.
Haven't you got a ditch out at your property?
I was gonna drop them off in Danville. There's
Okay, so who wants
Keep it up
to?
on the northwest corner.
yes, right up in that area. Nice area.
So we've got, the countywide rural cleanup would begin Monday, October 12th. Is that
Yeah,
through,
through Saturday,
December, what was that?
December the 19th.
19th.
And I'll verify with Becky to make sure. Because does it have anything on there about the Saturdays? I think they're usually open only 2 Saturdays.
8 AM to noon Saturday.
But then it's usually like either the first and third or the second
I
and
remember the
fourth.
discussion.
Yeah, I'll have to look.
Well, they can't take it if it's not open.
Yeah.
Okay, we need a motion to, countywide cleanup from Monday, October 12th through Saturday, December 19th.
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, Bob, you're first. Jim, you're second.
Okay,
Terry?
Bob Beck,
yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes.
Means I can get rid of my junk, I'm not a rural resident.
Not a rural resident.
We have reports.
Wouldn't count.
We have the GASB 75 actuarial valuation report for fiscal 20. I'm sure both of you gentlemen looked this over.
Yeah.
It's an actuarial report on our employee health insurance required to be included in the annual audit. I wouldn't pretend for a second to understand a bit of it. But it's required to be in our annual audit, so we have to approve it.
So you made the motion to pass it?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, and I'll second it.
Well, you don't have to motion to pass this.
But this is just a report,
Received
right?
and filed.
Oh, that's good.
I'm sure they didn't want to overburden us with any sort of a
Thought process.
thought process that would be outside the scope of our ability. We have minutes for the regular meeting of September 29th, 2020.
Second.
Terry?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Bob Beck,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. Other business,
I have none.
future agenda items,
I have none.
committee reports.
I have none again.
Uh, We had the Emergency Operations Center meeting last week, and I haven't ruled quite currently, but there's no imminent danger of the hospitals or the healthcare system being taxed to any degree at all, so we seem to be coping. Public input. If anybody from the public would like to address the board, since attendance is limited, you may email the Board of Supervisors at board@dmcounty.com. That's BOARD@dmcounty.com, or call 319-753-8203, extension 4. That's 319-753-8203, extension 4. We will give you 2 minutes to make that call or that email. Meantime, is anybody in attendance, is there any public comment?
This isn't a public comment, I just thought you all might be interested in knowing what happens to all those televisions. You know where they end up?
My garage, I have a.
Oh, televisions! Where?
They end up on Maple Street, no. A lot of, not all of them, but a lot of them are put on freighters and sent to countries like Vietnam, where people have jobs stripping all the electronics out, and they make new devices out of them. And they also melt down to get the gold and silver that's part of the circuit boards. It's a big industry in that.
I didn't know that. It's
So
interesting.
you're actually helping the third world by throwing your TV away.
Unless you leave it in one of Brian's ditches.
Other than a ditch.
Actually, we had a group come through here, and they wanted to start a business to take all that old stuff. And I think it faded away, but I haven't heard anything out of it.
You'd have to have a pretty low wage rates to do that, and the shipping and still, you know, to get those, to those
The
resources.
average income of a typical person living in rural Vietnam anyway
Yeah.
is about $300 a year.
Yeah.
Carol and I watched a movie that had, it was about the Chinese coming over here and taking over a plant in like Detroit or someplace up in there. And they were gonna build something. But the broken glass that was left, they were out sorting the different colors of glass because some of them are worth more than the others. And big difference between how things are done overseas and how they're done here.
Oh yeah, what we consider to be trash is treasure for other people.
Yeah.
There used to be a dump in the Philippines they called Smoky Mountain. Great big trash heap. People lived around it, on it, and they scavenged for little pieces of metal or pieces of paper or something that they could sell.
Wire.
And, yeah, whatever had value. And a number of people were saying, you know, this is terrible that these people had to do that. It was, but it was better than the alternative. That's why they were there anyway. So there was, I can't remember the name of the economist. He said, if you don't like it, he said, put a fence around it so they can't get to it. Well, then they didn't like that because they were aware that that was the best option available to those particular individuals. Anyway, the 2 minutes are up. With an aye, we're adjourned.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you all for your attendance. You all have a great afternoon.
At one of our meetings, you took a picture.
Me too.
Yeah,
And I received a go-get 'em on it with comments.
Okay. We ready? Terry?
Sorry. Good go.
Good to go. Okay.
When was that?
We have a work session with the sheriff regarding radio communications in courthouse and schools. Who?
So, you know, last fall we had this operation within the courthouse. And one of the things that we all worked together.
Mike and I, could you unhook your mask a
I
little bit?
can, I'll stand over here. So, when was that, Rodney? We had that, time gets away from me, active shooter thing. When was that?
I don't remember.
It's been, yeah. So, at the conclusion of that, you know, of course, you critique everything that happens through that, and you determine what we need to make the whole situation better. And then when we realized that at the end of the day, we had a real problem with communications, basic communications, which we still have today within inside the courthouse. Part of the problem is that we can receive a signal within the courthouse, but we can't talk outside the courthouse. In fact,
What do you mean?
well, I can hear a dispatch calling me, but I can't talk to them. Basically, I have no way of talking back to them on our sheriff's frequency.
If you're in the courthouse? you
Right,
mean?
right. Very difficult to get out. Same way at the sheriff's office. We have a very hard time talking back to dispatch. And part of the problem is you're having, you know, a high power signal coming from the police department or from our transmitter, and you're trying to talk on portable radios, which is talking back out of a building built like this one, which is built concrete and steel. It's hard to talk out of. In fact, if you're in the basement, it's almost impossible. Or if you're in certain rooms, you can't talk back out. So if you have a situation within the courthouse, extremely hard to communicate with dispatch or, even worse, other officers. An example would be that I have a situation in this room, and I'm trying to talk to Kevin, and he's bringing the cavalry in over from the sheriff's office, and I'm trying to talk to him on our frequency. Kevin probably won't hear me because I can't get out on my radio. And Kevin, if he can't hear me, he'll have a hard time talking to me also because he's at the courthouse, because at the sheriff's office, we have the same problem. We can hear dispatch, but we can't communicate back to them as well as we'd like. Now, if I'm near a window or something like that.
By dispatch, you mean the 911
Yeah.
operator, or, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
well, the regular dispatch desktop.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
So if communications is an issue, and what we found was, you know, I'll give you for an example, the day of that situation, or the day of that exercise, I'm on the first floor of the courthouse, and I'm trying to communicate with someone outside the courthouse and tell them what the situation was. Couldn't do it. Could not speak to them outside the courthouse. I tried and tried and tried, you know, my radio, I tried and tried and tried. You know, I held it above my head, I did this, I did that, you know, on our frequency, and couldn't get out. Could not communicate. So, the problem is that nobody knew what was going on the first floor of the courthouse. And we needed to let people know what was happening. Was the situation contained? Did we have the subject in custody? Did we have... So, the problem was, there's a real lack of communication at that point. So, and the same problem is at the sheriff's office. We can hear dispatch, we can hear them call us, but we can't communicate back to them. Oftentimes we'll have to go to, we have an internal radio, or we have to get on the phone, or, for instance, if you're in the bathroom, you're stuck. You're not gonna be able to communicate with them. So, you can hear them, but you can't communicate back. And here it's the same way. You can hear them, but most of the time you can't communicate back. So we realized that was a real problem. So I got a hold of Kevin, and he's put together a proposal to remedy that problem. So we will have an ability to speak within the courthouse and also within the sheriff's office. And that'll give us an ability like seamlessly, and that's what we want. We want to be able to, you know, come out of our patrol car and walk into the courthouse or into the sheriff's office without changing a channel. one thing you don't wanna have to do in an emergency situation is you don't want more confusion. You don't want more steps to have to do. You go back to the very basics of your training, and you work the problem. But if you have to, there's an option here, I think, to use a second channel or switch to another channel. The problem is that everyday use that doesn't work very well. We have courthouse security people that need to be able to communicate outside. A lot of times we have problems communicating with them, basically the courthouse security folks, because we can't hear them. We can't hear them. Dispatch can talk to them, but they can't talk back out. Same problem. So what Kevin has done is put together and we knew it wasn't going to be cheap, but we knew that we had to get the right system, and we knew we had to make this a better system and to make sure that it works. The reason you do these exercises is to find your failures, to find areas that you need to improve, to find a spot that, why didn't it work and what is it going to fix, what's going to take to fix it. We've come a long ways with our courthouse security system. We've done a great job. It's taken a long time to get it to this point. We know that. I remember when I first started as sheriff back in 2001, we started talking about courthouse security. A lot of people push back on it, because they thought, we don't want to do that. But as time's went on, I think we got a really good system. I think it continues to improve. Well, this is the next level, is communication. We didn't realize it was that bad. I mean, we thought, we had some issues, but we didn't realize how bad it was until we had the active shooter scenario come down and realize that between working with the fire department and working with the police department and working with the responding agencies and working with our own people, we couldn't communicate. I couldn't communicate to Chad McCune outside the building. Couldn't do it. My lieutenant couldn't talk to him. It's like, this is not right. And so, with that said, we started looking for options, and there is a couple options, but we feel like the best one is what Kevin Graybill's put together. And I'd like to have Kevin talk a little bit about the system and what it involves, and exactly, in technical terms, what it means. I can't go there with that. So, any questions further with me at this point, or?
And to be fair, you told me there was a problem. Back then, you said there was some sort of a problem that would have to be looked into.
Yeah.
If you couldn't communicate in and out of the courthouse, and so, this is, so I know that,
Yeah, we want to make sure we understand that this is a public meeting, and we understand that there's a little bit of holdback on that. We want people to understand we're trying to do the right thing. But we have to be upfront and honest and say, we do have a problem. We have a problem. We need to try to fix it. Kevin?
Well, you did a great job there, Mike, for thinking you're not technical.
Thanks.
So, a little bit of background on the county's communications here. So, it's what we call a single site transmitter and multi-site voting receivers. So, what he explained with portables talking back, that's a common problem. You've got, when you look at a radio, what we call a mobile radio that's mounted in a vehicle, antenna on the roof, you're talking about a 45-watt transmitter, antenna that's not obstructed by, building, being inside of a building. Those will work pretty well. And throughout the county, I would say we probably have close to 95+% coverage on a mobile radio. Portable radios, not so much. There's a big trade-off for a portable. It's portable, you can take it anywhere you go, but it's not, its performance characteristics are not even anything near like a mobile radio. So like I said, on the mobile radio, 45-watt transmitter, the portable on your hip is a 4-watt transmitter. Antenna systems are not nearly as efficient as what a fixed mobile radio in a vehicle would be. In law enforcement, most public services are using a lapel mic or a speaker mic that's up here to use it, meaning that now that the radio stays on the hip, and that antenna is right up against your body. So if the site that I'm trying to talk to is that direction, I am going to perform a little bit better. When I turn around, now the absorption in my body, which is, obviously our bodies are made up of a lot of water, which kind of attenuates signal, it can be very problematic. So, just movement like that can just change the characteristics of a portable. So they're not the greatest performing solution, but that, you know, the portability is the benefit. Again, not uncommon at all that this is happening. So the way the sheriff system is set up right now is we have the one single site transmitter, which is located on the county tower on Golf Course Road. We have 2 voting receivers. One of them is at Meeker's Landing.
What's a voting receiver?
So, okay, sorry, I should have said that better. What the voting receiver does is we strategically place these receivers in, you know, strategic locations. So they're closer to the portable, so that the portable can hit, you know, a closer site to be able to get that signal amplified, if you will, and get back to the main tower and be processed. So, a voting system, because we have these multiple receivers, when you key up your radio, you might actually hit, you know, one of them, all of them, half of them, but it's transported back to the main site, which is County Tower, and it processes the best signal, and then it relays that to dispatch, and then relays it out to the other radios in the system. So it's basically an enhancement for portable radio coverage. So we have one at Meeker's Landing, a voting receiver, because we get up in that northeast part, and then you got that bluff of 99. It's been a problematic area. So we've got a site there, and then the main site at County Tower is also a voting site. And then, why am I blanking right now on the third site? Oh, Weaver.
Weaver, yeah.
On the Weaver Tower. Fills in that Skunk River down there. So downtown Burlington has always been a problem. It's, you know, from standing here downtown, we're low elevation, we're at the river, and then everywhere we look, we've got, you know, a rise in elevation, bluffs as we go up north. So it's very hard to get a signal out of here. This has been a problem for police since day one, and they've had this voting receiver. It used to be on the PD building across the street. When they moved out of that, we had to move it over here. So it fills in that downtown area. Years and years ago, we presented this as an option to the sheriff's office to put in, but the budget wasn't there for it, and, you know, cost benefit thing, I don't think they were as alert as they are now about courthouse security, so we didn't do it at that time. So essentially what we're doing now is we're duplicating what we're doing for police. We're using some of the infrastructure that's already up there on the building and adding another receiver on the sheriff's channel that'll tie in and bring it into the main network, and that'll give them ability to talk out of here. I mean, and they actually mentioned, or Kevin mentioned it here a minute ago, you know, he's been in the sheriff's office and couldn't get back, so he switched to the PD channel and he could talk back to dispatch. Well, that's because that voting receiver is here. So my solution is all been based on the information getting, you know, from the sheriff and others, that when you're in these facilities down here in the downtown, you can hear dispatch. So that's not a problem. Signal's not a problem getting here, but those low-powered portables talking back is a problem. So that's why we need to add this voting receiver here to enhance that. And that will give them the community, not only just in the courthouse, but sheriff's office and essentially throughout the downtown area, to talk back to dispatch. And in my opinion, is the most cost-effective and best solution. It's seamless to the user. They're gonna stay on their same primary channels that they have always stayed on, talk like they normally do, talk to other deputies, talk to dispatch. It'll just be a seamless operation for them. There's just this magic black box upstairs in the courthouse that is processing all this signaling. So, and it'll tie into the main network, so, you know, we have remote access to monitor the site and, you know, do remote diagnostics in the event of a failure, or, you know, just general troubleshooting. And it's just part of the main network. It'd be completely integrated into the main network that's already in place.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyway, so we've got look like two quotes or proposals here. What's the difference in those? Is there one? And I don't know.
In layman's terms, I reached out to Raycom also to get a second quote, and Kevin can probably kind of highlight a lot of this, but because he put the network together and he did that initial, he has access to the network where Raycom doesn't.
Okay.
And then the difference is that when we come in, we're gonna have to switch channels. So we'll have to switch to a different radio frequency. And it would be.
Under the one quote, you would have to switch to a different
Yep,
frequency.
under the Raycom quote, you'd have to switch to a different radio frequency, and it would be isolated to the courthouse. So the signal would be boosted at the courthouse, you'd have to switch that frequency. Whereas, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but your system would boost much of downtown to include the sheriff's office, our transmission in the whole area, as opposed to just in general at the courthouse.
Correct.
I see yours is 100 watt, where the other is only 25 watts, so that's a big difference right there.
So that's a generic, that's what's called a multi-mode station, so it has the ability to enable a transmitter, so it's a generic description on it, but we're not using that as a transmitter, we're only using that as a receiver. So the power doesn't really apply in this case. Based on what Kevin was explaining about the other system, it's kind of a, we did it back in the day, it's still done now, but they're called vehicular repeaters, where when you get into some of these counties that are, you know, the terrain is really rolling, you know, instead of investing in infrastructure, you could add this, what's called a vehicular repeater to your mobile radio in the vehicle. So then you could take your portable and you could basically use your vehicle as the relay to get back to the tower for your, you know, handheld. But again, the way that would have to operate is you'd have to go to a different channel, and you know, it could be a problem if other vehicles showed up in the same site that had a, you know, repeater in their car, then there could be some conflict there, but I'm not a fan of that approach. It's kind of a Band-Aid approach. It's definitely less expensive, but it has a lot of drawbacks. It kind of negates our security and our identification. So we have what's called a P25 digital radio network. P25 is a industry standard for public safety communications developed by APCO, which is the Association for Public Communications Officers. It's a standard that's been designed specifically for public safety. And with that is an identification system and a security system. So every radio that gets brought onto this network, you know, a request comes through me and I have to assign it an ID to authenticate it on the network, and then that ID is reflected in dispatch. So, for example, when the sheriff keys up his radio, dispatch gets an indicator on the screen that it's
291.
291, that's the county number I was struggling with. It says 291 John Stone, and then they'll have a designator, whether it's his mobile radio calling or his portable radio. It has an emergency feature, so, you know, man down or something happens, they've got an emergency button on that radio, and that sounds an alarm in dispatch. They get all this, you know, flashing light, honking going on, that there's an emergency. It identifies it as being 291, and, you know, that can be handled appropriately. With the solution that I believe Raycom's put together, we lose all of that capability. It's basically the radio that'll be identified to dispatch is this fixed radio that's mounted here in the courthouse is a relay to get back to the tower. So it would just look as one ID. The emergency functionality will not operate the same way, because it's, you know, it's just like a lone radio off on the site that really has no identification or authentication on the network as well. So it could be any radio could come in here, and if they knew that, I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds, but if you're halfway savvy with communications, you could pretty easily get in there and start, you know, adding radios and jumping on the sheriff network without any authorization.
Your radios you have now are compatible to this, to your?
Yes.
The one push button for man down and all that?
Yes. So that's the thing is this, we're not changing any of the operation on the user side, we're just enhancing the network that's already here. We're just adding a site, if you will, to improve the coverage. So probably everybody here is old enough to remember when the cellular network kind of hit, we had the cellular telephones mounted in our cars. Those would work great. Well, then the handhelds came out, and you probably remember they didn't work quite as well as the fixed one in the car did. And, you know, now we're all handheld, we're all portable, and the fixed unit in the vehicle has gone away. Well, the way that happened is they increased tower sites. They put all these sites everywhere to enhance the coverage for these portables. What we're doing is not that much different. Adding a site to improve coverage in a designated area.
So your voting receiver in the courthouse will be as strong as the one out on the tower?
It operates kind of in a different fashion because the signal is transmitted from the county tower. That's the only place it's transmitted from. And again, going back to the conversations, they can hear. The signal is getting here. We can't get back. So that's why we're adding this voting receiver here. And so instead of the portables having to talk back to the tower at County Home or at County Road there, they're just talking to the courthouse now. They're still hearing the traffic coming from the county tower on Golf Course Road, but they're talking back through the courthouse. But it's seamless to the operator. They're not changing channels. They don't even know anything's happening. It's just in the background working.
In an emergency situation, and we've had this, we used to have a situation, or a setup like that on our county towers where we'd end up, we'd have to switch a channel to talk, and invariably, we just didn't use it because you just simply didn't know which channel to go to, or you were in the middle of an emergency situation, and it got to be a real problem. And you want it seamless. In an emergency situation, when you have a shooter or you have a violent person or a situation going down, simpler the better. The less things you have to think about when it comes to that, the better. You're focusing on the incident, not whether I need to switch a channel, and did everybody else go to that channel, those kind of things. So that's why, I feel it's so important. Like now, if I'm up on 99, I have to worry about switching a channel. If I make a traffic stop up there, I'm behind that bluff and I can't get out. My radio's not working with dispatch. Before I'd have to switch a channel to do that. Well, that takes time, that takes my attention off of the traffic stop. Now, seamless. Make the traffic stop, don't have to worry about making that switch, any of those kind of things. And traffic stops can get kind of hairy, and that's why you don't want to have to worry about making those kind of switches and say, okay, for me to communicate, I have to go to another channel. Same thing here. Seamlessness is extremely important to me. Yes, you could probably get by with a less expensive system, but reality of it is, when we have a situation, we need to be able to communicate immediately and not worry about that extra step. And it works great in the county. That's what I love about those voter systems, is you don't even know it's seamless. You get out there, Skunk River Road's another prime example. You get behind that bluff, again, you're a long ways away from anybody. You're a long ways from your help. You're a long ways, and a lot of times years ago, we had to go to a state radio communications. We'd have to go through Fairfield State in order to communicate. We'd have to say, Fairfield State 291 on Leah, because our radios would not work on the Skunk River Road. And we ended up getting an agreement on a tower. Now we have the voting system, so when I'm down there, one of my deputies makes a traffic stop, it's seamless. It's like he's sitting in Burlington. He can communicate with dispatch, he can communicate with other cars responding to him, and updates with information. All those things are extremely important, especially because we live on this bluff. We have bluffs and river bottoms everywhere, so Mississippi River Bottom, Skunk River Bottom, and it was a real problem. But with the voter system, that cured it, and that's what we need here. And yeah, you're talking about a little more money, but when it comes down to a situation like this, you can't have second best. You gotta make sure you have the best system available, and that's why I would recommend, and that's why we're coming to you, because it is a bit of an expense, and an unplanned expense, actually. I mean, I know we talked to Rodney about it, and we really hadn't planned on this, or we'd have probably put it in the budget. But we didn't do that. And we didn't know till recently exactly. Kevin was looking at engineering and looking at different options and realized again, Kevin was trying to save us some money too. What's the best way to do this? What do you think? How can we get by with this and try to save us some money if we can? And Kevin finally realized that probably cost us, what do you come up with? He goes, well, this is what we're gonna have to do. So
is this hardwired?
So it runs through, there's a private secure microwave network that links all the sites in the county together. And it's not just for sheriff, it's police, fire, county fire, Burlington Fire, West Burlington Fire. The whole network is linked together on a microwave network. we already have that network here because we've already put it in for the police department. So there's a huge cost savings by being able to share that network. Getting back to the changing channels and this vehicular repeater approach, we had to do this a lot way back when we didn't have the technology to do the things that we're doing now. It was a nightmare with training, and when they had to switch that channel, it never went well. Then you have turnover in personnel and it's retraining, and then you add complication to it by scanning. In order to make this thing, if you tried to do it and implemented scan so that you could be on other channels, it may stop on an undesired channel and then you're talking back on it. And it creates not only the user having to change the channel, but if they have the need to scan, it's gonna complicate things exponentially. And it always came down to they'd forget to turn the radio back to the channel. So in this scenario, if they're using this in the courthouse and they run out to lunch and go down the road, it's gonna be easy to forget to change that channel. So once he leaves the area of this courthouse and that solution, he's out of pocket. He's done. He can't hear, he can't talk.
So when they're in here and they're talking to your voting receiver, it's gonna be strong enough that it'll pick up any signal they have on their radio. They don't have to have receivers in here. They can
No.
send it up there.
No, they'll be able to talk throughout this area, throughout the courthouse, throughout the sheriff's office and downtown, because they're talking to the antenna that's on top of this roof.
Okay.
And then that's relayed into the network and, repeated back through that transmitter site back to the other radios in the network and dispatch.
And that, it's not only, we're in the PD, we can't, same situation, we can't really communicate well inside there either on our frequency. Any place downtown, we're inside of a building in a basement, those kind of things. And of course, you well know, we assist Burlington all the time, we're assisting them. So it's another benefit, not only to the courthouse, but to the sheriff's office. It'd really be nice to be able to communicate out of there. And we've always said, well, we get by with it, but it's not a good situation. We've been able to communicate, not been able to communicate out of there, and it's gonna catch up with us eventually.
I can relate to your switching channels. I don't know how many calls I miss because I forget to put this thing back on ring when I leave here on Tuesdays.
I mean, we're human beings, and then, especially if something happens, and that's what you're doing your training for and exposing these things. If something happens and this guy gets on a foot chase or, ends up going down the block, last thing on his mind is gonna be worrying about what do I need to do with my radio to make sure I can communicate. I mean, it's a dangerous situation, and, I've been at this for almost 30 years now, and I've seen this time and time again. That's why I didn't even propose a solution like that, because it's not a sanitary solution.
This is for the $20,905, we can fix that.
Yes.
Okay. The best thing I heard you say was seamless to the user.
Yep.
I like that. I didn't realize about the changing stations. I've, over the years, forgot to pump a shotgun when a pheasant came up.
Yeah.
So is it in your budget? Can you get through the budget without an amendment?
Yes. We had a lot of cost savings this year, and we wouldn't need any, it would fit into our budget this year. So we wouldn't need to ask for any additional money. We want to bring it to you guys because
It's pretty good, Mike.
it's an expense.
Budgeting.
I'm for public safety, as everybody knows, so I don't have a problem with it myself.
Hey Kevin, I had a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So I assume this system is, it's gonna go on the courthouse roof, and it's gonna be on the same band, similar to what is kinda up there right now. Do you see any reason or any way that would interfere with any of my wireless signal going back to like the city of Burlington with my ubiquity point-to-points or anything?
Nope.
With the
And
what?
then, we have a connection to the city of Burlington. They share some resources with us in terms of like Shield and records management. And we have point-to-point wireless. That's how we connect to them. We're just bouncing off buildings from like here to the one across the alley back to the city hall. So I was just curious if adding those up there would interfere with that at all. And then the next question I had for you, How much equipment are you looking that you would need space-wise? I assume this would go upstairs in my rack in my office.
Yep.
How much room are you gonna need? Cause I'm kinda running out of space in my rack up there.
I'm gonna probably need about 6U.
Oh, wow, okay.
What's 6U?
It's a racking term of how much space in an equipment rack. A U is equivalent to 1.75 inches roughly. So it's basically vertical space in a rack. We can come up with, if we have to put one of the devices on the wall or something, we could do that.
Okay.
Because what you see up there right now, where there's that black Atlas box that's police, we're duplicating that. We're using the same network switch, same power supply, but we have to add the extra rack unit, doubling what I said to 6 roughly is, it's the splitter to share the antenna that is already up there for police. So if we had to mount that on the wall, even back down that wall towards where the cable comes in, we could certainly do that if we don't have the space.
We might honestly have to.
Or we could split it all out and put a wall cabinet and put everything in that.
Well, you gotta swap that switch up there anyways.
Yeah.
I can show you when we
Okay.
get there, and we'll talk about that. And then, Rodney, in terms of running cable from upstairs down to my office, I mean, is there much room left in that junction to get cable in?
I don't have to run any cable.
No cable? Okay.
No, because it's using what's already there.
Okay. Alright.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple physical installation. There's configuration on the network to do, but, I mean, basically I have 2 items that get bolted in the rack and make connections, and that's it. Then the configuration.
Works for me.
I don't have any trouble with this expenditure at all.
Okay, very good, thank you. I think it's gonna make it a lot safer for everybody.
What, is there a lead time? I mean, how long will it take before you can do this?
With COVID, it's hard to say. Delivery of equipment has been all over the place, so,
Yeah.
I mean, I would estimate at a minimum 4 to 6 weeks. It's,
Just wondering.
yeah, deliveries have been ugly.
Gotta talk to those
Now
guys
we know
about
how
order
unsafe
times.
our people are, we want you to hurry.
Yeah. I get it.
We didn't worry about first 20 years.
Yeah, no, trust me, I totally get it.
We also, you noticed on the agenda, we also have an item for schools too, and we're having some issues up at the schools, which we're working through, but we are gonna approach the superintendents about those issues and try to work through some of them too, so.
You mean talking in or out with it? So in other words, so if you've got a deputy in a school, he has trouble.
Yeah, and we'll work with the schools and see what options they have for us, and, we're just trying to make it a safer place for everybody, and we appreciate your support, and it's gonna help a lot, not only for the sheriff's office, but for all downtown here also, so. Probably should have been done years ago, and again, Bob and I were talking about it earlier, years ago, we didn't have a lot of extra. We were getting by with what we could get by with, and realized that someday we would wanna upgrade, and this deal here, the active shooter exercise really underscored the problem we had, so.
Go.
So now you're giving all the credit to Rodney?
Well, I am.
He deserves it.
Absolutely.
You're the man, Rodney.
That's why we do those things, I mean, it's about trying to find your faults, and that was a big part of it. So, yeah, thanks, Rodney.
Looks
It's team
like you
effort.
guys solved a serious problem, so.
It's team effort, not one
I remember the sheriff mentioning this.
Yeah.
Shortly after it happened, that there was problems with trying to, they couldn't speak out of the building.
One of the biggest problems is the world's gotten a lot nuttier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and that's part of it, we start, when we see issues, we don't procrastinate anymore with them, because we don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring anymore. So,
Tell you're from Lund County,
I am?
because you tried to describe our tower out here on County Line Road.
County Home Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
County, what is the name of that road? County House, Courthouse, County Home Road.
Yeah, County Home Road in the county, yeah. That's a good catch, but yeah, I did fumble on that. Because I say that quite frequently.
I have a daughter who lives in Robbins.
Oh, how did she fare?
Terrible, just
Yeah.
like the rest of town.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Yeah.
And it's still awful.
It's still bad. Yeah, we're still struggling through it, and it's,
What part of town you in?
we're in Hiawatha, so basically neighbors
live
to
in
Rob.
Hiawatha?
Yeah, and our office and home is in Hiawatha, so.
Well, she used to live on 42nd Street.
Uh-huh.
And off of 42nd Street, and every big tree in their front yard. And they put quite an addition on before they sold it. And that tree was right down the middle.
Have you driven up there at all?
Oh, yeah, we were there last weekend.
Oh, and boy, it was clean. I mean, it's cleaned up significantly since
Yeah,
then.
that boy is still a mess.
It's,